Hello mga ka-learners! Kamusta kayo? Today, we will learn about the life cycle of animals. Have you seen butterflies hovering from one flower to another? Isn't it fun to watch colorful butterflies flit from one flower to another? Will these butterflies come again next month? Next year? Where do butterflies come from? After this lesson, you should be able to find out about the process of reproduction among different types of animals and learn about the life cycles of some animals. Before we discuss the life cycle of animals, let us first try to understand the concept of reproduction among animals. Reproduction is the capacity of organisms to produce other organisms similar to themselves. Hence, cats give birth to cats. Dogs give birth to dogs. Humans give birth to humans. There are two types of reproduction: asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, a single organism divides to produce two or more offsprings. Among animals, there are two types of asexual reproduction: budding and regeneration. In budding, a new organism grows from the original organism. The bud produced is smaller than the original organism. One animal that undergoes budding is the hydra, a coelenterate. In regeneration, an entire new organism grows from certain pieces or cells of the original organism. This type of reproduction occurs among almost all coelenterates and planarians, most annelids, and many insects. If you were to cut a planarian widthwise in half, each half would grow a new half. Regeneration also occurs partially among other animals, such as lizards, salamanders, and young frogs and toads. Have you seen a lizard with its tail cut off? The next time you see that lizard, it will probably have grown a new tail already. Sexual reproduction occurs when two specialized cells meet and join together to form a new cell, zygote, that develops into a new organism. Most animals reproduce in this manner: sperm from the male animal and egg cell from the female animal join together and form the zygote. Planarians and earthworms, however, have both testes and ovaries in their bodies. Thus, when mating, one worm donates sperm to another worm and both worms produce eggs. Do you know what the term life cycle means? Life cycle refers to the series of stages that an organism undergoes as it passes from the time it starts to develop to the time it begins to reproduce. A life cycle is also known as a generation. Can you describe where your life cycle started? Your life cycle started when you were born. Once you have your own child, your child's own life cycle begins. The average human life cycle takes 30 years. The life cycles of some organisms are more complex. Let us study these unique cycles one by one. Fruit flies. A cycle is something that happens over and over again. The life cycle of any species repeats itself over and over. As you can see from the diagram, the life cycle of a fruit fly has 4 stages. In the first stage, the adult fly lays eggs. The yolk inside each egg hatches by chewing its way through the egg. The second stage is the larval stage. The fruit fly larva is called a maggot. The maggot has mouth hooks by which it drags itself through its food. The third stage is the pupal stage. The maggot wraps itself in a case and there it grows larger and develops body parts. The fourth stage is the adult stage. The fly, as you often see it, emerges from the case. At this stage, the fly is ready to lay eggs. Hence, the cycle repeats itself. Mosquitoes. Have you ever been bitten by a mosquito? What are the stages of life cycle of a mosquito? Look at the following diagram. As you can see from the diagram, the life cycle of a mosquito resembles that of a fruit fly. It also has 4 stages: the egg, larval, pupal and adult stages. Mosquitoes lay their eggs in water. The larva that hatches from an egg spends the entire stage in water where it feeds on tiny organisms. The larva is the wriggler or kitikiti that you often see in stagnant water. The pupa of the mosquito does not feed but is extremely active. Once the adult emerges from the pupa case, it becomes a terrestrial animal. Frogs. Most frogs and toads and other amphibians lay their eggs in water. Some female frogs can lay as many as thousands of eggs. The life cycle of a frog has 4 cycles. The frog larva is called a tadpole. A tadpole has gills and a tail. It takes about a year for the tadpole to develop into an adult frog. During the rainy season, you may be able to find tadpoles in a lake or stream. Butterflies. Do you like butterflies? A lot of people enjoy the sight of these colorful creatures flitting from one flower to another. The butterfly also undergoes 4 stages of development. The adult butterfly lays an egg on the leaf of a plant. The larva that hatches from the egg is called caterpillar. The caterpillar is the green worm that you often see crawling on leaves. It usually has a big appetite. The next stage is the pupa stage. The caterpillar covers itself in a shell. Inside the shell, it transforms into an adult. The adult emerges from the shell. This is the butterfly that you see and admire. Tapeworms. What group of animals do you think the pork tapeworm belongs to? The pork tapeworm is a flatworm. It is a parasite that lives in human and pig intestines. The life cycle of this tapeworm begins when a person eats infected or improperly cooked pork. The tapeworms in the pork reach the human intestines and lay eggs there. The fertilized eggs are released along with human waste. A pig becomes infected with tapeworm when it eats food that is contaminated with tapeworm eggs. The fertilized eggs develop into larvae. These larvae settle in the muscles of the pigs. Once a human eats the infected pork, the life cycle is repeated. Let's remember, reproduction is the capacity of an organism to produce other organisms similar to itself. Reproduction may either be asexual or sexual. Asexual reproduction is undergone usually by simple animals such as sponges and coelentrates. Sexual reproduction is undergone by more complex animals, including humans. The life cycle of an animal refers to the stages it undergoes as it passes from the time it begins to develop to the time it begins to reproduce. The stages in the life cycles of different animals vary. That's the end of our lesson on the different life cycles of animals, mga ka-learners. Kung gusto ninyong malinawan pa, huwag mag-atubiling mag-login sa inyong online account. Marami pang matututunan doon. See you on the next episode.